The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies, Firestorm Games, and also the generous donations of you, the listener. We'd like to thank everyone for their continued generous support. Meeples and Miniatures episode 279, Saga Age of Magic, with hosts Neil Shuck and Mike Hobbs, and guest Shaun Randall. This show was recorded on October the 25th, 2019. Hello, good evening, and welcome on this St. Crispin's Day to another episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. My name is Neil Shuck, the Brummy Dwarf. I am immensely pleased to welcome back to the microphone the one, the only. It is the Welsh wizard himself, Mr. Michael Hobbs. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm better, thank you, Neil. How are you?
I'm pleased to have you back, mate. I was worried.
I'm not surprised. I've put up with that third-rate co-host you managed to draft in last time.
What, you mean the halfling Hickman?
The halfling, yeah. I don't know. Turn my back for a second, and suddenly, yeah, get David to replace me. I mean, could have anybody, but Dave.
I'm sure he'll appreciate your sentiments. I mean, as I say, it seemed an opportune time considering, what we were talking about. But it's good to have you back,
and it's good to be here.
Yes. So as I say, as people may be aware, Mike has not been a wild bunny. Susie might be going on holiday. But I take it you're now kind of healing and getting back towards some form of normality.
Yes, definitely back to some sort of normality. So for anyone who didn't know, I came down with Bell's palsy, which sounds like a disease you get in the 14th century.
I was gonna say, it looks a bit like a disease you get down with in the 14th century.
Yes, it's a very interesting one because, well, for those of you who haven't gone and Googled it, basically, half your face is paralysed.
Mm.
And the other half drops. Well, in my case, half of it dropped and the other half was paralysed. That was fun. I talked a lot all the time. And dribbling. But I was able to do a very good Roger Moore impression.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah.
Pleased that you are recovering, mate. I'm well aware of the condition because my wife suffered it a few years ago, and she unfortunately has been left with some permanent paralysis, which is a risk. It's an interesting one. But good that you've really pleased to hear your full recovery, mate. So great to have you back, and we are joined this evening. Back for more punishment after his previous outing with us, talking all about Red Alert. It is, of course, Mr. Shaun Randall. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, chaps. Thank you for inviting me back on. It's a pleasure to be here once again.
It's great to have you back, mate. Great to have you back.
Indeed, it is, Shaun.
Yeah, Shaun is back with us as once again he's in the position of having played the game that we are talking about a lot more than we have. Well, as in the fact that he's actually played the game.
So, It wouldn't be hard.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So just to key you in, on today's show we are talking all about Saga: Age of Magic. We will be touching a little bit on Saga version 2. I think we'll be covering the Book of Battles to a certain extent, but yeah, we're majoring on Saga: Age of Magic. So that's what we're going to be talking about in the main part of the show this evening.
Will it be a rant about dice?
I have nothing to rant about.
No.
Look,
You got yours quite early, didn't you? There was no problem.
I made mine.
You made yours. Oh, that's clever.
I am stepping away from this one. There will be no ranting about dice, especially as people were wondering, how the heck can he rant about dice and then have not played the game yet? It's all about painted
Because they obviously don't know you.
It's obviously about painted figures. But there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thank you for that, Mr. Hobbs. Am I still pleased that you're back? I'll let you know by the end of the show.
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking, I've got a whole episode of, sarcastic remarks to make that I've missed out on, so I have to double up this time.
Oh, yes. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
It's okay. It's going to be one of those evenings.
Just to get my quotes in.
I had completely forgotten about the Dice Saga.
How could you forget about the Dice Saga?
Well,
How?
it was back in April, wasn't it?
April, May, June, July. I mean, went into August, September, I think.
Careful. I know where you're going. I know what's coming next. Be careful. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? And actually, tell you what, we'll do it now. I was going to do it at the end of the show, but we'll do it now. I just want to give a huge shout out to Henry Hyde. Henry, as you know, huge friend of the show. If you've been following him at all on social media, you'll know he's been going through a diagnosis process recently and has just been diagnosed with prostate cancer, which is a bit of a shit, to say the least.
Was that a pun?
Oh shit!
But the thing is, Henry did say on Twitter that he wants all of his good friends to carry on taking the pee out of him. So that's a good way to start. Well done, Neil.
Oh dear! Sorry, that never even crossed my mind. Yes, thank you. Anyway, I just want to say all our thoughts, good wishes go out to Henry. And, yeah, we wish him all the very best. But, as part of it, and, I think we owe Henry a thank you for, again, it's not just the fact that this has happened, but he's been brave to talk about it, raise awareness. And I suppose it's appropriate as we're coming into November again, which obviously is talks about testicular cancer, and the fact that us as blokes, especially, don't tend to talk a lot about health and tend to avoid doctors as a general rule and stuff like this. Yeah, stuff to be aware of, guys. But yeah, all the very best to Henry. We're thinking about you, mate.
Absolutely. And just wanted to add that within certainly the social media circles that we all inhabit, Henry's not the only one who's been ill and been diagnosed with problems this last year or so. And I think as we're all men of a certain age, just do go to the doctor, do have your checkups, do keep an eye on things.
Indeed.
Thing is, it's not the killer it used to be, and Henry's a fighter, and he's going to get through it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Every faith.
Yeah, exactly.
Very much so. Very much so. Okay. And with that, we'll take a quick break. And when we come back... Oh, confession time. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is proud to be sponsored by Two Fat Lardies, purveyors of the finest rules, supplements and gaming accessories for all your wargaming needs. Most recent in their offerings include the September War Anniversary Bundle, marking 80 years since the start of World War II. This is a 2-scenario book set for I Ain't Been Shotman. In accompaniment to that, you have a free PDF download of Blitzkrieg in the East Part 1 Poland, which contains a number of army lists for I Ain't Been Shotman. This is a free PDF download. And a special offer on the Kriegspiel Compendium, rules, scenarios and a map for this classic wargame. Don't forget that you can get more Two Fat Lardies by viewing Lard TV on YouTube. The latest episodes include parts 3 and 4 of Taking the Gemblow Gap, a playthrough of General Darnay, Rich Clark finishing his build of the Blacksmith, and Sydney's Battlefield Challenge. Also, don't forget that for your listening pleasure you can also download The Oddcast. It's available on Lord TV, but also via your podcast app of choice. Two Fat Lardies. Play the period, not the rules. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here once again as we come clean and chat all about our trials, tribulations and emptying of wallets. I kind of think the fact that Mike's kind of been cooped up for 6 weeks would perhaps lead to some issues with regard to this. You might have been forced to do retail therapy, so I'd be interested to find out what you've been up to, Mr. Hobbs. But, as has become custom, I think I'll kick this off myself with... I've not been as good as I thought, as I was hoping. Although, admittedly, I had some good news. The car lives, and didn't cost as much as I feared.
Woohoo!
Woohoo, indeed. Anyway,
good.
Yeah, it's always good. Yes. So, as a result, yeah, spotted a couple of things and spent a little bit of money that I didn't originally anticipate. So, I have backed a new Kickstarter. It's always bad, at some point where, I didn't go on Kickstarter looking for things. I went on Kickstarter to actually try and find out what the heck was happening with 2 or 3 of my pledges.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course, it starts up on the recommended page for you. And I was just I was scrolling down, kind of going, oh, what's going on? And I thought, oh, I hadn't spotted that. Midland Miniatures, who I probably know best because Dave keeps buying halflings from them. But Midland Miniatures regularly do Kickstarters for small ranges that they're doing, and they happen to be running a Kickstarter at the moment for a Hobgoblin warband. 11 figures, something like that. And I thought, oh, they look quite nice. So, back that. As you do. I think that's the only Kickstarter I've done at the moment. I was sorely tempted by a couple, but I've still backed away. Anyway, so I've just grabbed the latest Rangers of Shadow Deep expansion from Drive-Thru RPG. Crikey, I can't remember the name of the expansion now. Anyway, the one that was published a few weeks ago. I finally decided that I'd grab that. So I did that. And other than that, today because I suddenly realised it's coming out next week, I've just ordered the new expansion for Mansions of Madness. That's the Paths of the Serpent expansion that is due to be released next week. And then I had a Kickstarter turn up. Only the one. Still waiting for another one. And I've still got to go back to Monolith about the Mythic Battles. Yeah.
Was that the one where you forgot to fill out the pledge manager?
That's the one where I forgot to fill out the pledge manager, or so they tell me. I mean, the current thing on that is that they're potentially offering me a refund minus the Kickstarter fees. But to be honest, I prefer if they happen to have a spare pledge lying around. I prefer picking one up, but they said, get back to us at the end of October. So I'll find out what's happening with that next week.
Oh, so you're not part of the missing lot? They're actually saying you never pledged. I didn't realise that.
Yeah. I thought I was part of the I was one of the 900, and no, they came back and said you never completed your pledge manager. I kind of went, what? That was news to me, I must admit. But there we go. So yeah, they're saying that I never completed my pledge manager. So I'm hoping that they might have a spare pledge or two lying around. You never know.
I'm sure they will.
But
yeah,
okay. I'll say the N. I'll say the N word. And Nemesis has still not arrived.
Nemesis not right.
It's allegedly it is. I mean, they are still going through. They are still going through the dispatch process, but and somebody whispered somewhere that basically everybody was getting their second wave pledge before the people who pledged for one wave shipping got all their bunch. Now I didn't know whether that was just somebody trying to wind me up or what. But yeah, probably. But no, Nemesis still hasn't arrived. But what did arrive, it was the War of the Worlds game. War of the Worlds, the new wave, next wave, new wave. Looking at the Kickstarter, I think that's basically like ended up being like 6 weeks late or something from them. But that looks very nice. It arrived yesterday. I must admit, I haven't actually managed to open the box yet. But I did go. I know it's terrible. But I did go in all in on the order, and so I got the box and the very, very nice neoprene playmat they did with it.
Yes, the mat is very nice.
Indeed, it is.
Yeah, I was completely unaware of this game. I saw comments about the mat's really nice, but I will have to look it up.
Mine arrived on Wednesday, which was nice.
Oh, cool. Okay. Excellent stuff.
How long ago did you pledge? Did this one launch?
Oh, that's a very good question. That question's good. That's one of the best questions, really. When you look at questions.
In fact, someone would almost say it's a perfect question.
Perfect question. Yeah, indeed.
Indeed. Is it about a year? Or is it that long? It doesn't seem to have taken that long to process. Or maybe that's just me.
Right. This is the sound of something.
Looking something up on the internet.
Yes.
always gripping on a podcast.
Always gripping. Hang on, I'm down to. It was about January this year.
I thought it was this. I thought it was this
quick.
year. I thought. Yeah, it's very quick. So that was, so that's basically me. I mean, yeah, not too bad at all. As I say, I slipped today with the old Mansions of Madness, but it's this thing of getting, like Board Game Guru's new newsletter for next week's releases. And it goes, oh, Paths of the Serpent. I'm thinking, no. That's not out next week, is it? And knowing from previous experience that if you don't get the new expansion within a couple of weeks, it goes out. They disappear very quickly with the initial print run. So I thought, you know what? I've just got to get it in. I've just got to get it in and get the next one done. But that is me as far as what I've been buying. Shaun, what have you been up to recently?
Right. Well, Sunday, just gone, was Sale Week show. And due to a pressing engagement elsewhere, involving some rather well-known board game authors and a really complicated board game, I only had in and out of Sale Week very quickly, but I managed to pick up Sarissa Far East Village from my not very fast moving Bushido, dice shows, the rules we're going to use, sort of samurai skirmish project.
Cool.
Picked up very nice, as I've been hankering after these for ages, and he was there. Last Valley trees and an orchard and sort of stone field to improve the quality of the scenery on my table. And for myself, that was it. I'd sort of thought I'd go back and maybe get a Last Valley stream, and there's a couple of other things I thought I'd go back for. Looking at Timecast, some more buildings there, and spoke to them. I'd probably be back and wanted some walls for Peninsular War stuff. Then looked at the watch and thought, oh my god, I'm due at a Board Game Cafe at 1 o'clock, and it's already 11:30, and I need to get home and then get back out again. So I didn't go back and didn't pick up anything else. I did pick up in the Bring and Buy there. I was going to pick up some Dark Angels that were painted on some bikes from my eldest, who has really picked up his 40k game with his mates again. Now he's been home for a while. And the Bring and Buy, there's only cash, and by the time I'd bought stuff from Sarissa and Last Valley, I hadn't got enough cash left to pick those up for him, so he was a bit upset with me. So that didn't help.
Hang on. So he was banking on the bank of mum and dad for his next figures fix, was he?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Oh, kids, eh?
I know, children, different. When he gets off the payroll, the sooner the better. Is all I can say.
Amen to that. Oh, dear.
Picked up the Rommel rulebook because, as you were saying earlier, these things just sometimes disappear, don't they? Especially with Sam Mustafa's rules, because obviously they're imported from America. And I saw Black Hat miniatures were having a sale, so I picked it up for I've got a plan at some point to do some Desert War. Don't know when, probably a couple of years' time. But that was reduced to £23, so I thought, well, might as well buy that, so I've got it.
Cool.
About a month ago, I had a sort of mini sort of nostalgia fix of Man of War.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yes.
Mike remembers this. And
yes.
Microworld Games, I picked up their Sea of Fate Dwarves, and they are exact copies of, well, almost exact, but they are perfect proxies for the Dwarven sort of bombardment ship dreadnoughts, monitors, and the Nautilus submarines. So I picked up a fleet of those.
So what company is that again?
Microworld Games.
Microworld Games. Okay, so that's a company I need to steer very clear of.
They're American, but I didn't get stung on import tax, and I bought a fleet of 9 ships for less than probably one would cost me on eBay, or about the same price as say the Dreadnought would cost me on eBay, and these are all nice sculpts, very nice.
Yeah, Michael will do lovely fantasy sexual ranges.
Yes.
They did the set of rules, the colour that I'm selling, was it Lords and Ladies? We've actually had the author on the podcast.
Yes. For Lords and Ladies. For Lords and Lands.
Global.
Yeah.
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 Oh. Yes, we done some very nice stuff there, and yeah, if you ever wanted Dwarven Fleet, I wouldn't bother trying to buy an old GW one on eBay. I would buy his. Back in. Well, if you've already got them, that's fine.
Yeah. I
had them. I used to own them.
Oh no! Did you sell them in the Great Clear Out?
No, I sold them. I sold them a long time before that. There was a fateful transaction that took place outside Edgbaston Cricket Ground a number of years ago when I picked up I'd started buying Man of War. Obviously when it was first out. And do you remember when GW had their massive clear out of Man of War stuff when they basically went, okay, we are no longer selling it in the shops? I got everything. And it sat there doing nothing. And I basically, I don't know, talked to somebody on a forum and decided to sell it. Worst decision ever.
Yeah. I reckon Josh would have really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I reckon I would have really enjoyed it, to be honest. But there we go.
I mean, as a gaming partner.
Yeah.
Yes.
I picked up the PSC Battle of Britain board game when they had their Battle of Britain Day sale of it and reduced it to something stupid like £25 or £29.
That was a bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolute bargain. Because that is a good game.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but at that price, it's fine. Pick it up, put it on the shelf, get to it at some point. And I pre-ordered the new re-release of the classic Cthulhu board game.
Oh yes,
the one from the 70s.
Because that's out very soon, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And
yeah, that's on my radar. It has to be said because I've never played it. I've always heard excellent things about it.
Yeah, same here. And coincidentally, maybe because he's getting ready for the Denis Villeneuve film coming out, my son has just read Dune for the first time, and correctly agreed with me that it's probably one of the greatest sci-fi books ever written, and he's really up for it. So he's really up for the board game. Really looking forward to both the film and the maybe even watching the old miniseries that came out in the early 2000s. And I think, and picking up the other Dune books, so I don't actually own. So I never finished reading all the sequels. But yes, so our family's gone a little bit Dune mad at the moment.
All right. So you're not recommending? So you're not recommending watching the film then?
The new film, definitely.
No. Yes. No. The old Dave. Was it? Yeah. Was it David Lynch? Wasn't
David
it?
Lynch. Yeah. Well, if the idea of Sting in sort of space knickers appeals to you, then go ahead.
Do you know
It wasn't a bad film.
Do you know who did the soundtrack for that?
It wasn't Mark Knopfler, was it?
Ed.
No, it's Toto.
Was it?
In all seriousness, Toto did the soundtrack to Dune.
Oh.
Well, there we go. We learn something every day. Yeah, I mean, rumour has it. The reputation I've always that's always been passed down to me is that it is one of the best area control games around.
Yes.
Is it Gale Force 9 that are doing the reprint?
Might be. Don't know off the top of my head. If you want to look at a review of it, Shut Up and Sit Down have done a video review of the new re-release.
Oh, right, okay.
So that's we're picking up on YouTube. Hang on. Man looking up something on the internet. I pre-ordered it from Fast On Games. No, I'm not going to waste time. I can't remember who's republishing it.
Cool. Yes, I shall have to. Yeah, that is definitely on my list of things to. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. I'd forgotten about that one.
You're correct. It is Gale Force 9.
It is Gale Force 9.
Yeah. Cool. And Sean, when it comes to the sequels, Yeah, they kind of go a bit weird quite quickly.
Oh yeah.
My son's picked up Children of Dune today, so yeah,
That one
we'll
wasn't
see.
too bad.
I've heard bad. Yeah, I heard that they just get steadily worse. So
No, they're not worse, just different.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's when to get. Yeah, it's when to. It's when you get to God Emperor that it really gets strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What universe are you in?
Anyway,
Yes.
that is everything. I haven't done an awful lot, just bits and pieces.
Excellent. So, Mr. Hobbs, have you spent the last 6 weeks while convalescing, browsing the internet and randomly clicking on buy now?
No, it's been pretty good. Mainly because I actually turned off my phone and computer for nearly a week because my eye was messed up and I couldn't read anything. I've had a Kickstarter turn up, 2 of them. The Glow from Skirmish for Part 3 has turned up,
Oh, excellent.
which was a nice quick one. And War of the Worlds turned up a couple of days ago. She's sat on my desk looking at me, which I'll get around to. I have picked up a couple of supplements for Warhammer Roleplay, the 3rd edition, which I'll come on to much more in Hobbs.
This is the Fantasy Flight.
Yes, the Fantasy Flight.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have backed a couple of Kickstarters.
Yes.
Sumo Gnomes, which
Yes.
we played and we loved, and I've gone for the big tree one.
You gone for the tree trunk version?
I've gone for tree trunk.
Now, you see, I must admit, having bought the kind of, the beer mat version at the expo, I was kind of thinking, do I go back or not?
Oh, the tree trunk. That's the one we played and we loved it.
I know we did.
And we all
I
said,
know.
you need to sell this. And he is.
And he
Yeah.
is, indeed. Yeah.
I got that. And I've pledged for Siege of Malta by Hollow, I think.
Oh, the St. Elmo's Pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I haven't. I'm trying to be really good.
I haven't because of our, as I think, I don't know whether we previously discussed, well, I mean, certainly we have discussed this at some point, Shaun, whether or not 1066 has balancing issues.
Yes. Or whether we're just bad players.
Well, yeah, quite, yeah, and because 1066, I was expecting to play 1066 a lot, and to be honest, we haven't. And part of that is down to questions over whether or not it's simply a balance issue around runaway leaders.
Yeah,
basically from either side. In the case of as soon as one side gets ahead and especially gets ahead on the battlefield, it's very, very difficult for the opponent to get to come back from that. And we found that through several plays. So I don't know. I mean, I do like All or Nothing stuff. Their production quality is excellent. But yeah, I was kind of thinking, and do we? Yeah, yes or no? Jury's out at the moment.
Yeah. I had a look at it. It looks interesting. They tweaked some of the stuff that's in there. It looks like an interesting background. The background just looks interesting. I don't know much about it. Yeah, so I thought, it's worth a pledge to have a look at. That's about it. I've been
Blimey.
Cool. Wow. Yeah, that's massively impressive. What was There was something that came up the other day, and I saw it and immediately thought of you, Hobbsy. What was it? I'll have to come back to. I'll have to have a think about that. There was definitely something that cropped up, and I went, "Why? Oh, Hobbsy's bound to back that, or bound to get it." Oh, crikey! Leave it with me; it'll come to me.
Okay.
Okay.
However, I do have to say, I have to prefix the fact that tomorrow, as we record this, is the Firestorm Games October bring and buy.
I'd forgotten about that.
So
we came down for that last year, didn't we?
Yep.
Oh.
So that's tomorrow. So expect the next episode to be a slightly longer Confessional.
Indeed, yes. Oh, I'd forgotten about that. That is normally an excellent. That's normally an excellent day out. Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot. There is another Kickstarter I backed today. How can I forget this one? It's the Donald and Boris 28mm scale resin miniatures.
No.
Oh, no.
Yes.
From Great Escape Games.
No, nothing to do with Great Escape Games. It's a completely different company called Red Star Coven.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Who are legally different completely to Great Escape Games.
Great Escape Games.
Nothing at all to do with Stu from Great Escape Games. It's Red Star Coven.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you ever want a miniature of Donald and Boris riding a bomb, a la
Dr. Strangelove?
Dr. Strangelove, yes. That's the Kickstarter for you. However, it's only running for a week, so you've got to be quick.
Right.
It's finishing on Brexit Day on the 31st October.
Or not Brexit Day, as the case may be.
or sometime in November, possibly the end of January.
Yes. All still to be revealed.
Yes.
Oh, dear me. So shiny stuff that you spotted on your horizon at all? I've got one major one. Because it launches, as we record this, it launches on Monday, which is the next Outtro Miniatures Kickstarter. Mike and Joe from Outtro have, Mike's finally got all the next set of miniatures sculpted and has found a time where he can launch a Kickstarter without bumping into several different others,
including one also called Oathsworn.
I'm seriously unimpressed with that, to be honest. Especially considering Mike and Joe had that with their years before. Yes. Anyway, yes, Outtro Miniatures. Their next set of stuff for burrows and badgers, entitled "All Creatures Great and Small." I was wondering, as a stretch goal, whether we'd have a miniature of something like a mouse with its hand up an otter's backside or something, but apparently not.
Again, with the Henry references, stop it, Neil.
There's nothing to do. Oh, sorry, I was thinking much more kind of Robert Hardy and Siegfried Farnham sort of
delivering a cow or something.
Indeed, yes, indeed, yes, indeed. I mean, obviously, yeah, that reference is back to television series of its day. Known to people of a certain age. Or so we say. Yes. Or so we say. Yeah. Which always at one point seemed to have one of the cast with their arm up some unfortunate animal's backside. Yes. One wonders whether they did their own stunts.
Gritty realism was the thing.
Indeed.
So back to Temptations.
Back to Temptations, indeed. So that was, so that's my major one. Is the definitely will be backing that on Monday when it launches. That's me. How about you guys?
Shall I go?
Yeah, go for me.
Okay. I probably mentioned it back 3 months ago, but now we've got a release date and we've seen all the packs. But Warlord's Judge Dredd game.
I was going to say that. I got it written down.
That's what I was going. That's what I was going to ask you about. Thank you. I'm so surprised Hobbsy hadn't kind of orgasmed all over Twitter about that one.
Well, it's only on pre-order. I have to say the models look great, don't they?
Mm.
Which, bearing in mind, I wasn't impressed with their Doctor Who models compared to the not Doctor Who models that had to be taken off the shelves. I'm really, really pleased with how these look. But I'm also pleased that you don't get Judge Dredd in the starter box, and I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
Because some of us already have him, don't we?
I've got several.
Yes. So the fact that you can buy the starter box, or you can just buy the rules, and Judge Dredd is separate, and the figure on the Lawmaster is still great. I think the various packs are all very good, and I haven't decided which one to go for yet. There's been some complaints about the rule mega pack having the really dear rule book, and people are like, I'd rather have the mega pack without the collector's rule book. But other than that, there's lots of options.
They've just announced they're going to do it. I think without the big mega rule book. I think I saw that pop up the other day.
Right.
Going to be releasing new ones, but I mean, I'll probably go for the starter set and obviously the Dread.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping.
Hang on, Hobbsy, don't you own both the all the previous sets of Judge Dredd miniatures that have come out?
Not the old Citadel ones. I've got pretty much everything the Mongoose did.
Did you get all the Foundry stuff?
Sorry? Oh yeah,
Did you get all the stuff from Foundry?
I got a couple of Foundry ones, but they're much bigger.
Okay. Well, okay.
Yeah. They are just sort of painty ones, not for gaming. I'm kind of hoping it's not going to be one of these games where the cards you need are going to be in the packs, and that's the only way of getting them. But I suspect it probably will be. But the Jews will be good. They're always useful. And we'll see what they come up with. If it's based on Strontium Dog, I'm going to be very happy. But we can ask Mr. Thorpe on our next show. Because he's been involved in it.
Yes, he has, hasn't he? Yeah. Which is
useful.
Yes.
That's always good. Having somebody like Gavi involved in something is always, it's always quite encouraging.
Yes, so definitely Judge Dredd. Now, I don't own 28mm Romans.
Neither do I.
Hang on. Oh, spoiler alert for a question for the QA. No, neither do I.
So, I'm currently trying to work out which ones I want to buy. Whether I want to go Caesarean with, slightly oval scutum, or early Imperial with square, etc., etc. I haven't. Well, as I've got probably a few months lead-in time before I have to worry about a certain rule set coming out for that, then I'm just doing my research now.
Yeah, I got no idea because I just don't get Romans. It's just even cold.
So
I'm pretty immune to a new rule set that's coming out from the Lardies.
Wow. I tell you what, I was.
Whatever it might be called in the end.
I am having spoken at length with Rich on Sunday about how it's going to work, and he's just sheer enthusiasm at the moment for it. And it did kind of sell me. It's almost like you can, because it's asymmetrical. It's almost like you can imagine a Vietnam style feel to how you can do the games with the German or the hairy barbarians, whether the Germans or Celts or Britons coming out of the forests of the Romans, actually does sound a different way of playing it. That does sound quite appealing.
I must admit, if any company got me into playing Romans, it would be the Lardies, because they do their research, and it's not just going to be a standard game. It's going to be a well-researched historical game. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Yes.
But at the moment, I'm being good.
And in terms of, there's not much else. I mean, there's projects on the horizon. I'm looking for some 15mm Ottoman Turks to act as an opponent to my finally finished, got them painted 15mm Essex Renaissance Polish Hussars army that I bought in probably 1989 to play with WRG Renaissance rules, and have never played with them. But I sent them off to Gareth at ADC, and they've come back and they look lovely. So yeah, I persuaded my son to become an opponent on that. So I'm just was hoping to see if the Selby Bring and Buy had some, but they don't. So I'm going to have to sort of work out what ones I want to buy there. And in terms of not temptation, but following the Guru's teachings, I did not pledge for Joan of Arc.
Oh, what, for the 1.5?
Yeah, I didn't pledge in the end.
Wow.
Oh, me, I was good.
Also, one of the reasons is that the Board Game Cafe in Croydon we use from time to time, Ludicrous, has it. So if you look, if you look at the amount of times things like Mythic even has got to the table, I might as well go there and play theirs, and only pay £4 for the privilege of having a table and using that game, than spend £200 on a Kickstarter for it to be played twice a year.
There is a certain logic. There is a certain logic in that. Oh, talking about something that sprung to mind. Talking about Mythic. Have you seen the picture that Footsore have put up for the Mortal Gods Mythic expansion of the new Hydra?
Oh yeah,
that they have done.
Oh yes.
Isn't that nice? Oh my word! Saw that the other day, and I was like, oh
yeah.
I mean, the Mythic Battle ones is nice, but it has to be said that one is gorgeous.
It is, isn't it? It's actually, one of the nice things about it is because it's like a vertical model. Its footprint is quite small, isn't it?
Yeah.
Compared to the Mythic one, which is very large and lumpy model, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's
great model.
It's what you imagine a Hydra would be, but yeah, it's as you say, it's more horizontal than vertical.
Yeah.
Although it does have obviously does have the vertical aspect to it, but yeah, yes. Thank you, Mr. Hobday, costing me even more money. Since the other thing I did was I've just completed my pledge manager for Baron Wars. Yeah, because I think I talked about that in the last show, but yeah, that was that happened this week.
There we go.
Very nice.
There
we go. Okay.
I haven't got any more temptations. If it was just Judge Dredd, I think me and Mike have done it, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, in that case then, what we'll do, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, time to chat about what we've been playing, what we've been painting, and that sort of stuff. Hi everyone, Neil here. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you are, I'm wondering, would you consider becoming a patron of the show? For as little as $1 a month, you can help support us in what we're doing with the show. For that, you can get access to a monthly question and answer show, and that will also allow you to ask questions. If you pledge more, you potentially get bonus podcasts. And you never know, you might even get invited to be on the show yourself. If you want to know more details, please follow the link to our Patreon page, which is on the front of the website. That's www.meeplesandminiatures.com. unbound.co.uk. Thanks a lot. So, time to chat about what we've been up to in the hobby, and I suspect, especially considering Mr. Hobbs being ill, I think Shaun's going to have to rescue us from this one, because I haven't gamed a lot since played those several games with Mr. Hickman in order to review on the last show. I've only played one game since then, which Shaun's going to talk about shortly, so I will pop in my 2 pennies worth on that when after Shaun talks about it. I can now have an informed conversation with him about a certain game. So not played a lot at all. Lots of illness and conflicts of diaries and stuff, so not a lot played. And then obviously there's the other thing that in the meantime, Battlefield Hobbies has moved, so they closed down. They basically closed down for 10 days. They have moved across Daventry to different premises. Yeah. And then of course I'd be gaming tonight, but we're recording this, so there we go. I've done a little bit of painting. Finally managed to apply some paint to some figures. So started with the Rangers of Shadow Deep figures from North Star that I recently bought, and was having a bit of a play with some contrast paints, because I bought a few more. Was having a play with things like, for example, there was a couple of the figures are skeletons in robes. So I thought, okay, let's just have a play and do the robes in black, do the skeletons in, Skeletal Horde or whatever it is, and then just finish off the belt and the weapons. So I managed to paint these 2 robe skeletons in about 10 minutes. And they look alright. I mean, I'm not 100% convinced with the contrast black. Having said that, I think part of it actually does depend on the quality of the undercoat. You've really got to make sure that you've got a good base coat on it. And I think that's where I've, because I wasn't using their recommended base coat, I was using Vallejo. So I think that's where the difference has been. But other than that, yeah, I've basically been painting undead, and the artisan design, they have a couple of new revenants that are gorgeous. They are really nice figures. I ended up just doing them as, I tried doing the old Army of the Dead sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The figures are wonderfully sculpted in it, and you could really go to town on it. But the depth of the detail and the way robes all swirl around just seem to also just kind of do that. Give them a couple of washes of green quick shade over some wraith bone and see what it comes out like, and they kind of go, oh yeah, they look cool. I quite fancy getting some more of those, and I really kind of wish they'd do some more, some extra poses. But they're a couple of figures for in Artisan's fantasy range. They're really nice. And then last weekend I finished assembling and undercoated all my Wakir models for the Rune Wall Wakir model. So basically their undead army. So undercoated all those. Then had a discussion with input from your 2 good selves, amongst others, about what colour should I paint them, and I also had a the last Diary of a Gamer was I was talking a little bit about colour schemes, especially for fantasy armies, which is something that will crop up shortly in the show. But yeah, colour schemes for fantasy armies, and they say in this particular instance, especially undead, and whether you should go with a unified colour scheme or what other alternatives should you consider. That was an interesting discussion. I do like the suggestion that, well, I mean, you guys came up and said, well, why would they look the same since they're undead? You've raised them from their race, so there's no way they should be wearing the same colour clothing. And then there's a Gareth who came back and said, wouldn't it be, if they've basically been raised from a battle scene, then they'd be in the clothing of the two armies involved and stuff like that. And thinking, that's
both good ideas.
That's a really good idea. I'm kind of torn. And of course, there is always the Army of the Dead approach as well, which is nice but a bit of a cheat.
Yes. Get some on the table.
I suppose he does get them on the table. Yeah. I'm kind of torn on on which way to jump. So the company, I'm going to start them this weekend. I just need to decide which way I'm going to go. So, but that's basically been me. So just easing myself back into painting. Done a few, done about 15 or 16. Because I painted a dozen giant flies.
Yes.
That's the metal ones. Mm. Which were, I suppose they kind of count about like 328mm models when you add them all together with the surface area. But that's me. Not a lot done at all. So, Mr. Randall, what have you been up to, hobby-wise?
I've been quite busy in certain things, primarily board games. I'll talk about painting first, just get out of the way, which is not a lot. I'm looking at my work in progress, and two of the things from our last chat back in August are still on my work in progress list, which are an all-star samurai and my grenadier wolf riders, but they're almost done. The only thing I actually finished were my test contrast paint Imperial Guard, and I agree with you that black's awful, but then people praise it, so it might have been that I was using army painted skeleton bone as an undercoat, because I thought that would look well with like the desert sort of colour of the cloth, and actually be a good undercoat for green, which did work. But the black kind of looked like grey with yellow edges, so I went over that. I had to go over that with proper black.
I did notice actually. Because I did the Northstar Death Knight, and I did notice that putting a second coat, whilst certainly massively improved the black, although at the same time it does a lot of the whole point of a contrast paint in the fact of it then basically looks like it's black, as opposed to the whole contrast idea.
Yeah, I do have to say I've used their black on my Imperialis Orc stuff using their wavebone undercoat, and it looks gorgeous. It's brilliant.
Okay, so that's it. Yeah. That's for certain colours. They recommend. We poo-pooed the idea that the undercoat was as important.
I've got to say that
it came out, but it's true, isn't it?
Yeah, that wave, it's so smooth. That's the thing I've noticed with it. It's a beautifully smooth undercoat. It's a nice off-white. I'll take a picture later.
Okay.
And I'll check it on Twitter. But yeah, I love the black that I've got on those plates.
Have you used the spray version or the paint or the brush version of Wraithbone?
Spray version.
Okay.
That's I didn't know they did a
Yeah, do a
version on one.
pot as well. Yeah.
Do they? Oh no, I just bought a can of it, and it's lovely. Smells like cat's pee. I'll give it that. I don't know it's mine, but
It's just Dobby.
yeah, I was just thinking, I do all this in my garage, which is where the litter trays are. Maybe. So there we go. Back to you, Sean.
I keep picking up my old Imperial Guard army that I speed painted 10 years ago for a tournament that my son taught me, my one and only tournament that my son talked me into entering with him. It was a sort of 2v2 sort of format. And they're very much just 3-colour base coated, a bit of sand on the base, and that was the minimum standard allowed in the tournament. And so every time he gets back into 40k, I sort of look at this sort of 2,000 point Imperial Guard army and a unpainted Baneblade sitting behind it, going, I really should sort that out sometime.
An unpainted Baneblade? Oh, for goodness sake.
I know. I just keep thinking, I must sort that out. So, yeah. So I've picked out some of the command guys and the flags, and I started contrast painting them up as well. But now I've got this kind of mismatching colours between what I did in 2009 and what contrast paint looks like on several hundred Imperial Guard. So keep fiddling with that and not actually finishing anything. And then I've been making floor plans for Rangers of Shadow Deep, but I had this bright idea of I'm not spending £60 to £100 on dungeon walls or MDF tiles or anything like that. I've downloaded for free some printed PDF of tile textures and been printing them out and sticking them to sort of 2mm MDF and then sort of cutting them out. And I just wish I had it. It's such a long-winded job and it's so painful. And I always feel like I'm going to slice my fingers open as I sort of Stanley knife the MDF as I'm cutting out the printed textures. And that's been going on for about 6 weeks as well. So I just can't face doing it. Sometimes it's probably money spent is better than time saved. Whatever.
That's why I ended up buying the War Bases stuff as opposed to making. Having even bought all the materials to make my own, and etch it all out of foam.
Foam core.
Foam or whatever. At the point where War Bases bought out, I thought, you know what? Yeah, it'll be cheaper, but the amount of time. Okay.
So that's what I've been doing in terms of hobby painting and making stuff. We've been playing obviously more Red Alert, as I said earlier. Played Man of War, and then I had some special guests come up to my neck of the woods on Sunday, and we played UBoot in Croydon, which I think there were some raised eyebrows by a certain Richard Clark.
Well, he has a fine naval heritage, is Croydon.
Yes. So Richard and Nick jumped on the train from St Albans, and you can get a direct train from St Albans to Croydon.
Yes, but why would you?
And Fraser madly drove up from Bristol to Croydon.
Now that Fraser, that is mad.
Fraser, come on, that's just get some more friends, mate.
He did stop off at Aid Deacon's place, didn't he, and play shot practice 2 the day before. So he sort of made it a bit of a gaming road trip. Yeah. And great fun was had as we laughed at Nick's inability to do trigonometry, and Rich refused to press the fire button when we had an escort a ship, but banged to rights. And he just kept going, I want to get closer. We're like, we're at 1,000 meters. Fire. Go, no, I want to get closer. We're at 700 meters. Fire. Goes, no, I want to get closer. And then they got out of sight.
Hey?
Because they were going faster.
They went out of sight from 700 metres.
Well, we got closer, and obviously they slid across our firing arc.
Oh, okay.
Because we were obviously coming at them broadside, and
Yes.
and we got so close, or it took so long for us to get that close that they moved past us.
So let's explain what UBoot is for the uninitiated. UBoot is best described, Das Boot of the board game. And perhaps not so much a board game as an experience. It's a U-boat simulator, cooperative, 4-player, or up to 4-player. Each person takes on a role. So who was who? Who was playing who then?
So Rich was the captain, because actually, so the captain does the resources. In fact, he does the orders. Fraser was the first officer because he was the most experienced player in it, so he's in charge of the app and making a lot of the actual important decisions. Nick was the navigator because we thought he could read maps. And I was the engineer just because I thought I thought incorrectly it had the least stressful role. Until we got depth charged and sprung a leak.
At that point that becomes a bit stressful. Yes.
Yeah, that mini game I mean it's a sum of its parts game, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's lots of little bits, and there are mini games that are part of the main game. And the mini game, if you get depth charged, is to put together a puzzle of the blueprints of the U-boat under a timer.
Yeah, you have to assemble the section that's been. You have to assemble the section that's been that has been breached, plus the section either side.
Yes.
Under a time limit. On this tiny little. Well, it's these little like jigsaw tiles, aren't they?
Yes.
Yes.
And they all look the same.
Yes, and once you've assembled that, at that point you then stop the clock because you've sealed the whole breach. And the trouble is, if you don't seal the whole breach, everybody drowns. Everybody in that section drowns, and you need to have a certain number of engineers in that section in order to try to seal the whole breach in the first place. It's great fun.
Yes, it was an experience. Lots of beer was consumed. Lots of pointing the finger and blaming people for missing the target or getting lost. Or at one point the crew got diarrhea from the cooking, which again was down to Nick.
Yeah. We played this last night. Hickey's had this ever since Kickstarter turned up, and I've been saying, can we get it out? I'm intrigued by it. And to be fair, you kind of look at it and you kind of think, oh, this looks a bit complicated.
Yes.
And there's a lot going on, but actually, once you get into it, it's one of these games that is easier once you start getting into the flow of it, and once you start playing it, it's easier. There's a lot of nuances, and there's a lot of bits and pieces to learn. And what was it? I was the captain. Hickey was running the app as the first officer. We had Richard as the navigator, who, funnily enough, had issues with trying to work out the navigation aid, and we ended up going in completely the wrong direction at least once. And Mr. Luff was the chief engineer. We did the training mission, you see, so we didn't end up engaging any escorts. Excuse me.
Right.
But Dave basically totally failed to repair much during the time, and basically got to the end and went, well, all I did was move a few counters around. Yeah. But three of us had a great time. Although it has to be said, at one point, having caught up a lone trawler for the second time, and because I didn't have enough actions left on the watch to perform a torpedo attack. We ended up surfacing and shelling it with an 88. So as soon as we got on deck, Dave starts playing with the 88 in the app and starts merrily shelling away at this trawler or whatever. No, whatever it was, merchantman. Despite the fact that in the top right-hand corner of the app, it tells you your hit percentage. And the hit percentage was 0. We were 3 miles away. And he's going, but it's an 88. Its range is huge. I think he got to the point and said, Dave, he said, Dave, if you fire that gun one more time, I'm going to order the ship to dive, and I'm not going to order you in first. I'm going to lock the hatches and then dive.
I'm looking at my tactical data sheet, and it says 88mm gun range for. This is from UBoot, 2,000 meters.
Yes, which is just over 1 nautical mile.
Yeah,
we looked it up. We looked that up today because, apparently a nautical mile is 1,896 meters, I believe, something like that. So yes, it ranges a nautical mile. And funny enough, once you got within a nautical mile, we sank it in 3 shots. So, but Dave was just having a whale of a time.
Shooting seagulls with an 88.
Shooting seagulls with an 88, which is probably a darn sight easier than attempting to shoot a plane with the 20mm. I had a quick play with the app and ended up in a sector where you get strafed. Just to practice you using the 20mm anti-aircraft gun. That's a nightmare.
Yes, I've heard that's tough. I've practiced killing with an 88 on a boat and done it, but yeah, I haven't used the the 20mm.
Well, basically they turn around and say, if you get an aircraft, dive. Yeah, and I would suggest you do. Yes, but yeah, it is it's definitely, as I said, it's definitely a game you experience as opposed to play to win.
Yes, although I mean technically you can save the game on the app, and you can play a campaign, but I mean you'd have to get 4 people to play it regularly, and I'm not sure I'm ever going to make that happen. But yes, it's a fun experience. Actually, when everybody's in the right frame of mind and mood, it's a fun experience.
I think it does take the people to be in the correct frame of mind. Certainly, I mean. With our bunch, they were saying, well, half of it was Das Boot, half of it was the Navy Lark, you know.
That's what it was with us. I mean, we played from 1 o'clock till 5:30, so we gave it a good shot.
Oh, wow, yeah.
We didn't sink a thing. We sank ourselves. Again, in his attempt to get really close before we fire a torpedo, and our second lining up an attack run, we rammed our target.
That's a little bit too close.
Yes.
Oh, is it?
And sunk. All hands lost.
Because you rammed your target at periscope depth?
Yeah.
Mr. Clark, what on earth are you thinking? I mean, it states in the technical manual that you have a minimum range of 300 meters. Because you have to launch the torpedo, and it takes that long for the torpedoes to arm. So
I think, that maybe it might be a good idea once you've on broadside onto your targets and you're within range, is maybe issue an order to stop. We didn't stop.
No.
I think we're still going full ahead.
Full ahead, yeah.
But you can't just change the speed. So because Rich hadn't said, right, I'm going to issue an order, change the speed.
Yes. You don't.
You don't.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of these things that, for anything to happen, the captain has to order people to do stuff.
Yes.
I tell you, interestingly, on Monday, we were watching a couple of the playthroughs. When Beasts of War did their playthrough on their Let's Play playthrough of UBoot, they have a classic in. So they're doing an attack on a. They're doing an attack on. It's 3 merchantmen, and they have 2 escorts. And the game designer is playing the first officer, and so they're originally on the surface, viewing the ships just before they dive, and he flicks around and says, "Okay, yeah, that's where all the ships are, and these are the ones we'll target," and you just happen to spot, because he just flicked to it and flicked straight back from the front escort, and you happen to spot, if you were quick, the fact that the aspect changed on the escort, and basically it turned around, so it spotted them. Anyway, so they're just merrily going away and fire torpedoes, and they're watching the torpedoes through the periscope, as you do, and all of a sudden, you get this alarm going off. So they end up crash diving. But of course, you crash dive, but they don't change. But no one orders them to change course. So they just crash dive, and then wonder why they get 3 hull breaches due to being depth charged. Because they know where you were. But yeah, I tell you, I think it's a stunning game. I'm massively impressed with it so far. I mean, okay, we only played it for 3 hours or so, and there is a lot to learn. Everybody has to contribute to what's going on, because, well, it's a U-boat simulator. You end up with stuff. Stuff starts breaking down. You have to do maintenance of stuff. You have to make sure you order people to eat, and then people start getting issues. Food poisoning, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, we had toxic gas.
Toxic gas leaks in the batteries and all this sort of stuff. It basically just starts throwing a load of problems at you, and it's one of these kind of like, Krypton factor, now get out of that sort of things. Constant management, constant crisis management, but huge amounts of fun.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, which is markedly different to my first attempt, where one of my gaming group basically said, "Right, I've had enough. I'm not playing this again," and walked out.
Oh wow! We think Mr. Luff might be in that boat. He didn't appear to be having a lot of fun. Having said that, he was doing the chief engineer and basically thought that he didn't have a lot to do.
Well, you wait until you're depth charged.
Well, the problem was he wasn't even like doing a lot of his normal stuff. I think I ended up doing because obviously, I think we're talking too much about this game.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's leave it at that. At the point where he does make the comment of, does it have to say everything in German? Because things.
Yeah, the app.
The app, everything happens, and it says everything in German. Obviously,
loss.
Yes. Can't it say? Does it have to say it in German? Can't it say it in English? So anyway, in our game, we managed to sink a ship, and we made a weather report. We had an order to go to this sector and report what the weather's like. Which, obviously, once you make the report, it involves you having to use the Enigma machine. And just to give you some idea of the depth of detail this game goes into, one of the playing aids for the first officer, who also happens to be the Enigma operator, it has for every day of the war from August 1940 to sometime in 1943, it gives the 3-letter Enigma code setting for every single day. And that's what you have to use. So whenever you send a communication or whenever you receive a communication, you have to decode it using the Enigma machine. So you have to set it up for the correct day, and it's that kind of level of detail. So it's one of those games that you probably got to be in the mood for. But if you if you're in the mood for it, oh my word, it's good.
Yeah, I can go.
Anyway, we've waxed lyrical about UBoot for far too long. Mr. Hobbs, what have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. I'll be honest. Well, before I went off ill, I had a game of Call of Cthulhu.
Ooh.
Steve, hello Steve, Mr. Bond Jr. GM'd it, and me and Ralph. Hello Ralph. We played. It was really good. Steve's a really good GM. It was the first time he'd GM for a long.
You weren't Bertie Wooster again, were you?
No, I was a priest. I was a priest that my size was like the maximum, so I was a great big hulking priest. I played it like a Liam Neeson style, good old Catholic priest who had issues. He had a history.
And he had a set of certain skills.
Yes.
Did you keep wandering around going, I will find you and I will kill you?
Yeah. No, it was just a really good little game. We really enjoyed that. And then about sort of literally half hour after they left, my Bell's palsy arrived. So I'm putting it down to Steve and his Call of Cthulhu stuff. He's literally cursed.
Oh, well, but you're going to say, you literally did get an infection or disease from playing Cthulhu.
Yeah. He's that good at GM.
Immersive.
Yeah. So that was that. And then I've got to give a mention to Tom. So Tom, on Twitter, he's Dad of Ellie Dosh. Now, Tom was running Steel Lard. And he got in touch with me. I sort of said I would want to do it. And he sent me over a couple of postcard games. One's a little solo game, a little zombie game. One's an American War of Independence game. And he said, "Oh, do you want to do this? I'm going to do like a postal game, a proper old school postal game." I said, "Yeah, that'd be fantastic." And I still haven't done anything with it. He sent me over the stuff. I still haven't done anything with it. So I'm really, really sorry, Tom. I will get around to it, I promise. But it looks a little complicated. I just pick it up and sort of do stuff with it. But that was really nice of him. So thank you, Tom. And also thanks to everybody else who sent me nice messages. Only other thing I did, because I couldn't really use a computer or anything. I couldn't paint or anything, and I was grumpy. I'll be honest, I was really grumpy. So I just sat down and read Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd edition, which is a game I bought off a deacon about a year ago. In fact, exactly a year ago. And so this is the Fantasy Flight version of Warhammer Fantasy.
Right.
It's lovely. It's really, really nice. It's got a lot of Fantasy Flight elements that we all know and love. So after spending a week going through it and sorting it and sleeving everything, because there's a lot of cards, when I was able to speak again.
Yeah, I was very impressed that you have fully embraced the cult of Hickman and have started buying your card sleeves by the Outtro.
Oh yeah. It's so much cheaper. Buy them, in packs of 500. But yeah, and then I talked when I was able to speak again. I got Ralph, Mark, and Matt, who's never really role played before, to try it out. So I did a little scenario over at Matt's. and went down really well. So we're gonna, three of us, Steve, Mark, and Ralph, we're going to do a campaign. So we're going to meet up every other Friday, and I'm going to GM a campaign of 3rd edition, which should be fun.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. Having played, well, the only role-playing fantasy role-playing game I've done is the Age of the Empire. Does it bear any resemblance to that at all?
Yeah, it's got the dice pool. So the main mechanic of it is it's a dice pool mechanic where you basically assemble some, whenever you want to do anything, you put together a dice pool of sort of good dice for your characteristics and your training and stuff like that, and bad dice for things that you're trying to overcome. And you roll them, and you're looking for an overall success with sort of boons and banes, which are sort of good things or bad things can happen. And then that tells you just how well or how badly you've sort of carried out that task. So, the dice sort of tell the story, which, from a GM's perspective is fantastic, because you can let the characters actually sort of decide what good things happened, what bad things happened. You've also got a lot of sort of card mechanics in there, so each player has like a hand of cards which are actions that they can play. Things like a melee strike or cast a spell or sort of that sort of stuff. And again, you put these dice pool together, you roll them, and the card will tell you what the dice mean, and you work from that. So again, it's very, very simple rules wise, because any rules that you need to know are on these cards, which is, again, it's a lovely way of doing it. And I really like the way that the skills and the progression is handled. You have these careers, which, I think careers has always been a thing with Warhammer Fantasy, but they've sort of taken to another level. So you're sort of working your way through skills. You get cards when you're in a skill that you can use. If you complete a skill, you can keep that card. So your player character is basically a small piece of paper with your stats on it, plus a handful of cards. So as you get more skills, you basically swap cards out, which is really, really simple. So yeah, I'm really, really impressed with it. It's a shame that obviously you can't get it anymore, and there's only a limited amount. But I've been looking at the 4th edition, the Cubicle 7 I've done.
Yeah. And
it's because it's the same, shall we say, the same Warhammer universe. It's done in the same time. It's really easy to take a lot of the scenarios that they're now producing and basically back engineer them. Because, any characters that you come across, you can just put together quite easily. And away you go. So there's a whole host of stuff, and, Cubicle 7 are doing the classic Warhammer Fantasy campaign, which is the Enemy Within. So, I would love to do that using 3rd edition. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. That's that. Painting. Up until yesterday, I haven't picked up a paintbrush in 6 weeks. So I just started picking up the paintbrush again. So I'm looking at my old Reaver Titan. I dusted that off, and my old couple of aeronautic planes. But that's it. Not much going on. But I'm back. I'm back in the land of the living.
Excellent stuff. Excellent
Hurrah
stuff.
for that.
Indeed. So normal service will be resumed. You'll put me to shame next month.
Oh, more likely.
Great stuff. Okay, well, that's what we've been up to in the hobby. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, it's time for the main feature of the show. It's time to find out all about the Age of Magic. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is proud to be sponsored by Firestorm Games. Whether you need wargames rules, miniatures, paints, hobby accessories, scenery, board games, card games, all your role-playing needs, and even toys and collectibles, Firestorm Games is your store of choice. Check them out at www.firestormgames.co.uk or at their stores located in Cardiff, Newport and Swindon. Don't forget, if you use the code MEEPLEFLU, that's MEEPLEFLQ, all lowercase, you will get an extra discount on your order. Firestorm Games, for all your hobby goodness. Okay, so we are into the main part of the show, and here we are all together to talk about Saga Age of Magic. Released earlier this year, much anticipated release, I believe, because there's been a talk, and I mean, well, there was even an unofficial version of Fantasy Saga floating around for quite some time, wasn't there?
Yeah,
Yeah, there was.
and a Lord of the Rings version.
Oh yes, and yes. But now we have the as part of the new one of the new version 2 of Saga universes, they have produced the Age of Magic, a very nice hardback book. Yes, and Shaun is here to tell us all about it.
I am, indeed.
Indeed. So, I suppose what we should start off with is, I mean, especially as somebody who, when version 2 came out, staunchly turned around and went, I'm very happy with version 1. I don't see why I need to change to version 2. So, what's the difference, or what are the main differences between version 1 and version 2? Is there much?
There's a lot of tweaks. I wouldn't say there's... The core game is still the game.
Yeah.
But the main changes are in the format, in that the version 2 rulebook is a slim volume, only £10, has only one scenario. But it did give a bit of a giveaway, and there are lots of pictures of fantasy models and samurai in there, so people are going, oh, what does this mean?
Oh, yes.
They're finally going to do it. And then they said, right, we're going to release one hardback book for each of the universes. So they went back to the original Viking Age books, which there were 4 originally, and put them into one nice hardback, The Age of Vikings, which has the 12 factions. Then the 80th and Arthurian Age book, which had come out just before version 2. They said is pretty compatible, but you could pay £5 for an update pack, which included new battle boards. Right, okay. And then they did Age of Crusades. Then they did the Book of Battles, because obviously people were saying, why is there only one scenario? And they said, well, we're working on this really nice book to give you more scenarios. And it is definitely worth it. It's only £13. 18 scenarios, a mini campaign system. And they've got a system in there for, on a basic encounter skirmish, you can have sort of 5 elements with 6 variables each that you sort of draw randomly. So you can create sort of lots of different scenarios and different setups every time. So, and that book actually has, for some reason, the rules for buildings and linear obstacles are in the Book of Battles and not in the rule book.
That was a slightly weird. That was a slightly weird decision, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, that was. And then the latest book to come out is Age of Magic. In terms of version 2 gameplay, I'd say if you play it, it is the same. There's some changes to the figures, to the troop types. The main ones being the Warlord only produces 1 Saga dice now. His fight has been increased to 8. He doesn't do side-by-side rule anymore, which is when him and a unit went in to fight together, because that was the one that caused the most headaches. Bodyguard now, he can only sacrifice half guard rather than half guard and warriors. And the other main rule really is that Levy produce a Saga dice when they didn't used to, so there's more incentive to take Levy.
Yeah.
And also the warriors and the Levy as units stop producing Saga dice if you have less than 4 warriors or less than 6 Levy. So I'm not quite sure about the impact of that rule, because you used to make people run away to save their lives, and you kind of said that was inbuilt morale.
Yeah.
So it's, you know,
yeah, but it was always a case of you'd end up with a single warrior hidden somewhere on the board, just sat there at the back and still generating a Saga dice. Yeah.
Yes, that doesn't happen anymore. And it does also, I suppose, give a bit of an incentive to have larger units.
Yeah.
There's other there's something like 30 changes. There's movement, you can only move in straight lines now. Cavalry can break their movement into 2 sort of medium movements rather than 1 long movement, so they can change direction halfway through, but you can't go around corners, etc. Charge is a separate activation, so it's separately keyworded. So when you use a Saga dice or an ability to activate a unit, you now they can activate for a charge, a move, a shoot, or a rest, and a charge is a different one to a move. So if an ability affects movement, if it's keyworded movement, then you can't do it when you're charging. Things like that. And all of these changes were done to help streamline the rules and take out the niggles during tournament play, I guess, because actually, for very much a sort of American term beer and pretzels game, it's got quite a big tournament scene still, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Which was never its intention.
No, it's very much a fun game. Yeah. So they're the sort of main changes, and then Age of Magic.
Yeah. So Age of Magic. So we finally have fantasy for the Saga universe. They've taken an interesting approach to it, haven't they? Mind you,
yes.
I suppose the approach is one of the only ones they could have taken.
Yes, there's people who don't have their own miniatures line.
Yes.
And compared to the other books, there's a lot less factions. There's only 6 factions. So, Age of Vikings is 12. I think there's something like 8 or 10 in Crusades.
Yeah, so what they've done, they've gone along like archetypes, haven't they? Like 6 archetypes.
Yes, they're not races. And in fact, you can use the archetype to be good or evil, if you like. Yeah, they're how they are organised and how they fight, if you like, as an archetype of a fantasy trope.
Yes.
Do you want me to go through them?
Yeah, please.
Please do. Yeah.
Okay. So each faction has 2 sort of the main faction of the ordinary humans, and you can have 2 legendary units and 2 legendary warbands. But the factions they've chosen are called Great Kingdoms, and you can imagine those as being Empire-style humans or Dark Elves or High Elves, those kind of well-equipped, organised, disciplined troops. Lords of the Wild, which I think Wood Elves are the obvious one, but sort of goblins spring to mind as well. Undead Legions, which kind of speaks for itself anyway for that one. The Horde, which are, orcs, sort of classic barbarians, Dothraki Screamers, if you're doing Game of Thrones style. Otherworld, which are Chaos Demons, Chaos Dwarves, and Master of the Underearth, which, again, probably the classic ones there would be Dwarves and or Skaven.
It's interesting how they've broken them down, because potentially you would have thought that some of the races would have fit into other of the tropes.
Yeah, and there's nothing stopping you from doing that. I've played my dwarves as Masters of the Underearth.
Yeah.
Because they have one of the complaints that people have said is there's not the classic racial differences that fantasy has, for good or ill, but there are in terms of the legendary warbands. So there's a specific dwarven warband in Master of the Underearth that restricts their movement to S rather than M, which is the standard movement for most troops, and gives them extra resilience, so they are slower and more resilient, so they can take more fatigue. But they've gone very much the steampunky Games Workshop style for the dwarves in terms of the units you can take. So their firearms and their special lieutenant extra model is a guy who's sort of alchemist guy, so we've got grenades and things. So if you wanted, and they can take sort of giant cannon, if you wanted them to be more Middle Earth, you might actually use your dwarves as Great Kingdoms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Great Kingdom special faction, or the good special faction, are elves. So you'd be using your dwarves with the Great Kingdom rules, but they wouldn't be moving S, and they wouldn't have the extra fatigue of the legendary faction that's under the Master of the Underearth. That is, what dwarves are designed for. So you can change things around to do things slightly differently, but sometimes they've made things deliberately to be a better fit elsewhere. There's you look at a lot of the rules and go, that was designed to pick up that Games Workshop model.
Yes. Yeah, there is that kind of thing. Now, obviously, because it's fantasy, there are several new unit types.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there are, obviously because it's Age of Magic, there are sorcerers, which you field as a single unit. I'm using a lot of Saga terminology here in terms of how you build units up and movement and stuff, but one of the key differences in Saga, Age of Magic, is that their recommended army size is 8 points.
Yes.
Whereas your standard Saga army size is 6 points. Yeah. That's because of the extra units, like the sorcerers, and the ones I come on to as well, like lieutenants, monsters, etc. Some of them don't generate Saga dice, and they still cost you points. So in order to have, these, you're aiming for at least 6 Saga dice when you start the game as your resource pool. Yeah, you need an 8-point army really to get there. So sorcerers, lieutenants, which are like almost as powerful as a warlord, and they're special lieutenants for different factions.
Yeah, they each have special abilities, don't they?
And this is the point at which they've introduced the effect of effectively call a half a point unit. Yes. So there are some units that you pay for, not in terms of that cost you a point, but you reduce the size, or it costs you other troops from other units. So a lieutenant costs 1 whole creature, or 2 half guard, or 4 warriors, or 6 levy. And each of those costs are effectively half a point of that troop type that you'd normally spend. I.e., you get 8 warriors for 1 point. So a lieutenant, you would take 4 warriors away from that unit, and then you can field a lieutenant. Then you have creatures, which the rules are designed to represent your classic trolls, ogres, minotaurs, or maybe troops mounted on beasts. And they cost 1 point for 2. Or you can, for half a point, you can add a 1, and they come in unit sizes of 2 to 6. From my experience, they're a bit of a glass cannon. I mean, obviously you want trolls and ogres and things like that in your fancy games. You probably want at least 3. And they are quite tough. They're quite hard hitting, but they're not necessarily tough. Sorry. And then they can be 2-legged, 4-legged, or flyers. Then there's the monsters, which are giants, dragons, those kind of models. They cost a single point, and you can have a very aggressive one, which is a behemoth, as they call it, or a slower, more armoured, but slightly less strength in fighting titan. And then what they call a scourge or scourge, which is going to be a dragon. That's a flyer with a breath weapon. And then finally, new troop types have added war machines. So obviously ballista, catapults, cannon, flying dwarven gyrocopters. The rules can cope for all of those.
Yes.
So I've been using my grenadier giant dwarven cannon, and my mate's been using a sort of orc ballista. So yeah, they're very flexible. So they're the new troop types.
Yeah, and plus the fact you can also do things like, for example, you you can now do things like you can make your warlord on creatures
Mm.
and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So things like the classic, I suppose, Warhammer fantasy models of things like the orc chief mounted on a wyvern and stuff like this. You can now field.
Absolutely, you can field. Paladins on, Pegasi and those kind of things, and they're all pictured in the rule book. And the good thing is, because obviously it probably isn't a single Games Workshop model in the rule book for IP reasons. There's some fantastic. It's a fantastic showcase for other fantasy manufacturers.
Oh, certainly.
So, yeah, I've definitely bought some models because of the pictures in the rule book, like my dwarven golems, that I use as creatures. I was inspired by the pictures in the rule book there. And they've added new rules as well. So they've added firearms. The big monsters get a rule called imposing, which allows them to take more fatigue before they get exhausted. And then they've added, as you said, sort of rules for mounted that are beasts as opposed to just horses. So they've, and for flying mounts and breath weapons. So there's these slew of new rules and new troop types to sort of pad out your standard troop types, which are obviously still available, to add all those fantasy elements.
Yes. And then, of course, there is the aforementioned magic. So they have a magic system.
Yes. Which is good fun. Now, each of the factions has a standard battle board, your traditional Saga games. If you look at the top where you decide where to activate your units, the old combat pool has disappeared, which is where you might put your spare dice that might give you an extra bonus attack or defense dice. You don't get that in Age of Magic. What you get instead are magic dice, which I do own some. Have you got yours yet, Neil?
Yes, I do have my magic dice. Thank you very much.
I did buy these ones, Mike.
Yes, only the one copy. Although apparently some people recommend that you might need 2 sets.
Yeah, for a standard game you don't, because you get 6 dice, and you very rarely use more than 2 to 3. But for somebody who might field more than one sorcerer, you could end up passing the dice across from turn to turn, which could get annoying. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's like worth each player having their own dice. So they've basically got 6 spell types: energy, light, earth, metal, time, and death. Each faction can use 2 types of spell. So, for example, the dwarves can use metal and earth, and so each of the spells have different kinds of effect. The way you use the spells is during the orders phase, when you're rolling the dice and working out what you do. You also roll your magic dice, and that gives you a magic pool. You always have 1 dice, and you have 1 dice per sorcerer you have. So generally, most people would only field a single sorcerer because he doesn't generate any Saga dice, so it's a bit of a gamble. So you'd roll those 2 dice, and then that's your pool, and then in your turn, they're the dice that you can use when you go to cast a spell. You cast a spell at any point in your turn. At any point so you can. It doesn't cost an activation, so it's not something that sort of you have to think about. Have I got the resources for this? You just say I'm going to cast a spell at this point, be it before a move or a charge, or during the point of the melee where you could be boosting people up, and you choose how many dice you're going to roll. And it's a really interesting system. Have you looked at it yet, Neil?
I briefly looked at it. I must admit I haven't looked at it in any detail. I do note that, and yes, I have them. There is a deck of spell cards available.
Yes, so I forgot to mention that.
Yes, which are very useful, although at the same time they're a pain in the neck because they're tarot-sized, which is fine because they're a nice size for the amount of information. Getting a card holder for them is another matter entirely. But there we go.
Yeah. I mean, they're also in the books. You can just photocopy them if you don't want to buy them, but they are nice cards. Would you photocopy them and laminate them, and then you don't have to buy card sleeves for them either?
Yes, sure. Moving swiftly on.
The way the magic system works is each sorcerer can have 3 spells chosen from both of the domains. So the spells will do the standard things you expect in a fantasy game. So the domain of metal, there's a spell called Cleaving Blades, which enables your men to have to reroll their attack dice. The undead have Drain Life, obviously, which inflicts hits on people. There's your classic sort of domain of Earth. So with the Lord of the Wild faction, you can like the Wall of Thorns, so you can sort of create instant light cover. There's a great combination you can do with the Lord of the Wild and the right spell, which is actually to generate a piece of terrain and then turn it into an ent. Turn it into a tighter monster, so instant extra monster on your team.
No, I hadn't spotted that one. That's cool.
Yeah. So you roll you choose the number of dice you got from your magic pool, and you roll. Now, each spell needs 1 or 2 dice. Each spell can have 3 kinds of effect. It can have the minimum effect, depending upon the symbol you get on your dice, the optimal effect, or the maximum effect. And you choose which one. But if you choose the maximum effect, you have to roll on the effectively the magic abuse table, effectively the bad things happen table, because your magician spent too much magical energy on casting the spell. But I'll give you a quick difference in what will happen on different spells. So there's one of my favourite spells for my dwarves was one called Stoke Fury.
Yeah.
And that gives them a bonus move, because they're dwarves. I needed it for a charge. So any symbol will give them a move bonus of S. If I chose the optimal effect, it was a move bonus of S and 2 bonus attack dice. And the maximum effect would be a move bonus of S, 3 bonus attack dice, and the charge unit suffers a fatigue after charge is resolved. But you do have to roll on the bad things happen table, and if you roll averagely on 2d6, your sorcerer would be fine. If you roll badly, he can blow up. So you don't have to take. That is the chance. So you don't have to take. The critical thing is you don't have to take the maximum effect if that's what you rolled. As long as you've got a symbol for the optimal effect, you can say, right, I'll take that instead, and save my sorcerer, which is probably a good decision in the first couple of turns. But towards the end of the game, you might well go, if my sorcerer dies now, that's fine. I really need that extra bonus from having rolled the maximum effect of the spell. Yeah. What else is there to say about it? The spells, so I think, Mike, obviously you know Saga inside out. These are like extra battle board abilities.
Yeah.
And also because the combat bonus pool has gone, a lot of them are about, enhancing combat and stuff like that. But there are also interesting magical things as well that can be doing, from like opening up chasms and portals and, as I said, suddenly magicking out of nowhere, turning a piece of terrain into an ent that's fighting on your side. So, there's a good variety in the spells. The general consensus seems to be that whilst they might have the poorest battle board for a lot of people's view, the Undead Legion have the most powerful spells.
Yeah, and of course, one of the things with the Undead Legion, for example, is they have their special rule is is mindless, isn't it?
Yes.
Which is effectively a zombie horde, but rather than having 12, you get 20.
Yes.
Yes.
And also on their battle board, there's the classic undead thing of the reanimated ability, which you can bring people back from the dead.
Indeed. Yes.
Well, it's caused a lot of consternation, I think, when people have tried, in that people's going, I'm killing his men, and then I don't get any victory points from if they're brought back. Because I think that's the current ruling. So,
Okay.
you only get victory points for the ones that have stayed dead at the end of the game.
What's the ones that stay dead? I'm not dead.
Well, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
So it sounds like they've gone for a generic fantasy game, but trying to tie it into armies that people may already say.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a very clever.
I mean, it's interesting. Essentially, when they define, creatures, behemoths, titans, etc., that essentially gives you your armor, your aggression factors. So the type of, in the same way that a hearth god is a hearth god and a warrior is a warrior. Whether it's a troll, an ogre, a giant, or what have you, they are fairly generic as far as what you call something. So, so in the grand scheme of things, especially where you start to like, for example, creatures can also include troops mounted on fantastic animals. So potentially you end up in a situation where there is no difference between, I don't know, let's say a goblin spider rider and an orc mounted on a wolf.
Yeah, that's true.
They are both creatures and have exactly the same stat and the same abilities. So from that side of things, there is perhaps a level of abstraction and a level of differentiation, or a lack of differentiation that some people may not like. Because, I mean, I must admit the thing that immediately struck me when I read this was thought, it's like Hordes of the Things?
Yeah, or Dragon Rampant is what I was thinking.
Yes.
Because same thing, really. A unit of 6 heavy hitters, or whatever they call them in Dragon Rampant, can be represented by 6, armored men or 1 troll, but the stats are the same.
Yeah. So whereas in other fantasy games, whether it's like Sword and Spear Fantasy or something like Thud and Blunder, for example, where you really get the opportunity to design your unit, and through the abilities that can be assigned to that unit, to really let it reflect the creatures that are in that unit for fantasy. These tend to be a lot more kind of generic.
But that's, I think, when using the Saga system, if you like, then adds that. Because you could say the same thing about Saga, that the rules basically for a half-guard troop levy, when I say Saga, I mean traditional Age of Vikings or Crusader Saga.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
They're all the same. The differentiator are the battle boards.
Yeah, sure.
And what Age of Magic has is the battle board plus the spells. And so the way you use the battle board reflects how you're going to use your army to fight, regardless of what the figures look like. And then spells are really tailor-made before every game. So you can look at the spells and work out a way of playing with them, and so differentiate your play style, even though that maybe as the 2 units are lined up against one another, they might actually all have the same stats. But obviously, if you've used spells or used your battle board abilities, that's the thing that swings the game, isn't it? Or helps you win that fight, rather than just being the dice rolling competition.
Yeah, this is one of the things when you've got a flat point system versus a multi-point system. You know, when you've got the thing of a creature is always going to cost you this amount of points, and you can't allow that to be edited in any way, or some very tight editing of that unit's stats or that unit's abilities. Because otherwise, it would be really easy to make him really, really powerful and still cost the same amount of points. Whereas when you've got a multi-point system, where each ability that you layer on the basic creature makes it more expensive, then you can go down the whole route of being able to, craft your army to be exactly what you want.
Yeah. But just to give an example, though, of the differences that do lie in the different factions, I'm looking at doing a sort of troll v elf war from sort of, Poul Anderson, Broken Sword. And I was going to use Dragon Rampant initially, and then Age of Magic came out, and under like the Lords of the Wild, one of the special factions is a Minotaur faction that allows you to be all creatures and monsters, which is, normally a rule you can't do. So I can say, well, just replace Minotaurs with trolls, and then I can have a warband that is pretty much all trolls.
Yeah, and, I think Alex has been very clever in so much as he's done the basic, these are the 6 basic factions. But now I've also done some very specific sort of sub-army lists, aren't I?
Yes. Absolutely, and you go through them and you go, oh, they're Goblin Spider Riders. Oh, one of the sub factions for the Masters of the Underearth, are Skaven. I mean, they're even called Vermin. So,
yeah.
One of the legendary units in the other world, the Demon faction, is clearly, can be represented by a Balrog, or it's called the Archdemon, but. And obviously there's lots of winged demon style models out there, but if you go in Middle Earth, then that's definitely a Balrog. There's even a Cthulhu. There's even a Cthulhu warband. It's called the Tide from the Depths. So if you've got the right kind of half fish, half squid models, then you can you can tailor it.
Yeah, and I can see them possibly releasing extra types of these legendary army types to, or maybe, I actually might do like a competition on the forum or something like that. But you've got to be really careful of making stuff official, because it's so easy to sort of take the basic and make it like an Uber unit by chucking in multiple abilities.
Yeah.
So, again, it's balanced.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, as it stands, it does allow you to be very flexible in how you portray your army. Okay, they basically turn around and say, right, okay, for each type of, for each type of unit, you have a minimum and maximum base size.
Yes.
But within that, so for example, thinking back to, I don't know, a demonic army I've got, which has this from crikey,
Excelis.
Excelis, yes. Remember that huge demon?
Yeah. Yep.
That can you can field that. That's basically a behemoth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is quite possible to field that in an army. And that's like a 10-inch, 10-inch tall figure. And it's perfect.
So I was going to ask, do you have one of those?
I have 2.
Are they painted?
They'd be daft. But basically, I have a fully demonic army. And to be fair, half the units are painted. I just haven't painted my beastmen. Cool. But essentially you can make a demonic army out of beastmen, and then they have these lovely Nephilim figures, which and what have you. So you could very easily put something together for that demonic faction from the stuff I've got from my Excelis range, which is rather nice. That makes it nice. Yeah, so there's the opportunity, as I say, and this is one of the reasons why they've done it is because it gives people the opportunity to look at their range of miniatures and say, what they've got, and say, oh, fantastic! I'll have, I'll build up this. I mean, so I was talking about my Rune Wars skeletons.
Yes, ideal.
Absolutely ideal. And then you come to a point of kind of going, oh, hang on a second. I just so happened that one of the D&D board games I have, one of the figures in there happens to be a Draco Lich. Ooh!
Nice.
Yes, that's your necromancer sorted.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, or just have it as a monster. But yeah, I mean, there's that, and obviously, there's the ability to have funny enough, the Undead Army has one of their specials is the fact that you can have a necromancer.
Yes.
As your warlord. So there's lots of options, which, as I say, that kind of makes it really flexible. Which I suppose is what they're aiming at, because, otherwise you're in a situation where you start locking yourself in to one figure range or another.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because my Dwarven army is a mixture of Grenadier, Games Workshop, Conquest.
Wow.
So yeah.
So what's the verdict? What do you reckon?
We've had tremendous fun playing. We've had an ongoing tussle between my dwarves and actually they're my orcs, but my friend's using them. And yeah, the cannon sort of using those kind of extra weapons helps to create a different style of game because shooting's not very powerful in Age of Vikings. So to actually have something that has got range and does damage, changes things, spells. You don't know exactly what your opponent has got. You can suddenly sort of, you go to charge a unit and he moves them away, and to add that kind of difference there. And yeah, just getting out the old, Citadel trolls and getting them on the table. That's always a great thing to do, to almost play it like old Hammer, but in a smaller skirmish scale. And it plays well. They've integrated the magic very well in my view, and I think the way they've integrated the different kind of new troops for monsters and sorcerers and lieutenants to my mind, has worked really well. I think it's taken a while to come out, but they've done a really good job there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, from somebody who previously was saying there's no reason for me to get version 2 of Saga, I'm now at the point where I'm thinking this may be, part of it is due to the audience I might be playing it with, because I'm probably going to end up playing this with Josh, who if I was to offer him, I don't know, Vikings versus Normans, for example, he'd probably turn his nose up. However, Dwarves versus Orcs or any sort of fantasy battle, far more interested. So from that side of things, I think this may well become my go-to version of Saga. Well, until perhaps they bring out the Japanese version. Although having said that, I'm still I think it would have to go a long way to beat. I'm still perfectly happy with Test of Honor from that side of things, or the Duck Spirit version. But yeah, certainly for smaller, for kind of smaller figure count fantasy skirmishes. Yeah, brilliant. This is a very, very nice game.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's a vast improvement on Dragon Rampant as that kind of flexible, obviously Dragon Rampant's a lot cheaper, flexible system that you can adapt to maybe, as I said, to the kind of things I was looking at doing, sort of like Troll or Elf Wars, or, even perhaps play Middle-earth, but for bigger battles than the strategy battle game allows.
Yeah.
Not quite sure how I can translate Lord of the Rings to this. I was waiting on another game for that, but I'm still waiting on that, Mike.
Well, that's actually been handed over to Aidan Jim.
Okay.
To pick up, because I'm basically Sword of the King has been sort of left for about a year. Aidan Jim have got some great ideas on the command and control side of it, because I sort of live 70 miles away.
Yeah.
It's difficult for me to sort of get over there. So I went, look, you guys have it. You know what you're doing. You know what you want to do with it. Go for it, because the basic sort of mechanics are there. He just needs to sort of tidy up, rewrite, and put in their ideas. So hopefully they'll be able to crack on with it. That'd be great to see.
Yeah, no, I'm waiting for that as well. What was it? The other thing is I'm not quite sure what is next, because there are rumours that Age of Hannibal might be out before Age of Samurai.
Oh, okay.
And I have to say, I probably won't buy that. Like I haven't bought Age of Crusades.
No, I mean, I must admit, this is the Age of Magic is the only version 2 book I bought. I mean, you say yes. I mean, yes, it is more expensive than Dragon Rampant, but having said that, it's a beautifully produced book.
Yeah, fantastic hardback quality.
Fantastic quality. Yeah, top notch. Really good. Yeah, it's really well done. Yeah, by the time you add in your dice and your spell cards and everything else, should you so wish, it's several times the price of doing something like Dragon Rampant. But yeah, it's a very nice production.
Yeah, and it's a lot cheaper than Games Workshop buying a big rule book that's probably £40-50 now.
Yeah,
and buying an index for each army or codex for each army. So the cost on perhaps the market is aimed at, it isn't that dear to them. It's dear to people who only want to spend £25 on a rule book. That includes all the armies. But I don't think there's many big games that are that kind of package like that anymore in the fantasy world, are there? But its main competitor on that score would be something like Warlords of Era 1, which I haven't played, I haven't got.
Yeah, that'll probably be the closest one.
Cool. Okay, so it's I think it's £30, is it, for the hardback?
Yes, it's 30. Yeah, it's £30.
Yeah, available from all good stockists. There are the dice are about, I think is it £12 for the army dice and about a tenner for the spell dice, I think.
Yeah, it's around that. Yeah,
something like that, and then there's another tenner for the spell cards or something like that. But obviously, you do need the version 2. Well, I mean, we recommend certainly. Well, you need the version 2 rulebook, which is a tenner.
Yeah.
And ideally, you would need the book of battles as well, because at least that that does. It's a very nice book, and it does have a lot of extra bits and pieces which you would find useful, and lots of different scenarios, etc. So there's, I mean, I suppose you're looking at an investment of
£53 plus dice.
Yeah.
Maybe, actually, when you add it up like that, it comes like £80, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, you don't need the spell cards. You don't need the dice. You can make your own.
I made my own dice and spell cards, so yes.
Yes, so you're looking £53 for all and for a fully integrated set of rules, all your army lists, and a complete set of scenarios and campaign system.
Yeah, and then from that point of view, I don't think it's bad. I think I probably spent 6 years playing Saga. So if you spread it out over the years, the amount of time you play it, I was trying to add it up, and I think Saga 1 is probably actually dearer.
Yes.
Because it was, I think, something like £25 for the first rule book, but that was only 4 factions.
Yeah.
You then had 4 additional rule books on the Viking Age, which were each £15 each. So that's another 60. And then 6 multiple different kinds of dice. Yeah, actually, it's probably dearer to get into original Saga version 1, Viking Age, and all the dice and all the expansions than it is to say get into Saga version 2 and just Age of Magic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when people have been moaning about the cost of the change, I think actually it's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
You can see why the reason why they made the change, because it does give them this flexibility to start adding what they call universes extra into the system, rather than, like, for example, what they did with when they first did the Crusades book, which is effectively 1.2, wasn't it?
Yeah. Added some extra rules.
Yes. So yeah. So that is Saga Age of Magic. I must admit, I have not got it to the table yet, but as I say, that's my next aim is painting several fantasy warbands and getting it to the table. Oh, hopefully by the end of the year. So there we get on.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll revisit it once I've finished my Red Alert campaign with my main gaming partner. We're going to go back to Age of Magic.
Cool, excellent stuff. Okay, so hope you found that useful. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, it's time to wrap things up. So here we are at the end of the show. Normally at this point we would introduce the next episode in that long-running series, What's Dave Bought This Week? Except for the fact that Mr. Hickman's being remarkably good, and remarkably restrained. And short of succumbing to the suggestion that he really must own some halflings mounted on chickens.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, he's not really embraced much. So, to be honest, at this point, Shaun reminded us that we meant to talk about this earlier because we were obviously talking about the War of the Worlds.
Dum dum dum.
Dun, dun, dun. Yes, so tenuous link to games that we have just arrived and we're just waiting to play. But Shaun, you went somewhere today which intrigued me. Please tell me more.
Yes, I arrived at the podcast having hot-footed it back from London, having been to the War of the Worlds immersive experience in Leadenhall Street.
So pray tell, what on earth is it?
Well, it's the best way to describe it is it's an immersive theatre stroke virtual reality stroke almost escape room at times experience.
Okay.
So it's very well set. Very you walk in, it's actually a bar and a restaurant, but it's all steampunky.
Right.
And then they have certain tickets times that you go through, and then you're led through effectively the story of War of the Worlds as told by the Jeff Wayne album.
Ooh, my God. Now I'm interested.
I say, many would argue the definitive version, but that's...
And
hang on a second. When you say the Jeff Wayne album, I mean, do you mean the original, or the original and best with Richard Burton, or do you mean the Liam Neeson version?
Well, in terms of the particular narrative points, neither, because it's the actor who's playing. Actually, the journalist is somebody else. Is just another actor.
Okay, very
so.
Right.
But yeah, so the setting, the framing of it's quite clever because it's framed 6 years later. So it's like so this is a production put on by George Herbert, the journalist, and Carrie, to remind people about the destruction that's been wrought, and and we're taking you through the memories and stuff that we recorded as journalists. So the first thing you basically initially sit down in a theatre and you get like a projection intro. Then you're led out the theatre and you're led into different rooms. And in some rooms you put on a virtual reality headset, and in other rooms there's sort of actors in there progressing the story. In another room we had to find the blueprints in a lockbox and find the key. And at one point we sort of got into a boat and put a virtual reality headset on, and we were in the sea next to Thunderchild watching it get sunk.
Oh wow!
And other times you're walking around with the headset on in a virtual reality world of Victorian England, standing next to the artillerymen as they're shooting at the tripods as they're coming over you. It's excellent.
That does sound a bit good.
So yeah,
I'm just going to play the album though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I took my daughter, who's because the current Beth is played by one of her favourite current musical West End stars, and she actually has been recorded playing Beth the parson's wife in this as well. So she was like all happy because she did actually see her in this, even if it was a virtual reality projection of her.
Oh, okay.
And she just likes the music as well. So yeah, that was cool. So it was something I did with my, believe it or not, my daughter. It was in this 1970s concept album, and it was very good.
Excellent. That does sound good. I mean, obviously we're all still kind of waiting with bated breath for the BBC War of the Worlds to finally land on UK screens. We understand if you're in New Zealand, you've already seen it because I showed it a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it's still coming sometime in the autumn, isn't it? So
yes,
yeah, and. Well, I'd say it's the first time from like a film television point of view it's actually set in, for want of a better phrase, the correct time.
Yes, that's exactly what you say. The correct time. When I was talking to a colleague at work who was in his 20s, asked me whether it was based on the Tom Cruise film. If looks could kill.
Yeah.
I know the Spielberg version gets a lot of hammer. I must admit, whilst I disagree with some of the decisions they made, there are other bits which I was really impressed with, and I suppose especially also the telling the story from the bystander point of view as opposed to the usual story. So obviously, so the 1950s version, told it from it
was just communist versus America.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes, it was. Yes. I quite enjoyed the Spielberg version. It has some massive faults, but I still quite enjoyed it. But as I say, I am hopeful about the BBC version. It's just a real shame that they couldn't use the Jeff Rain tripods.
Yeah, because they are the definitive tripods as well, which this experience does. Yeah. So that's great. It's not every song all the time, but it is the back story and it is some of the songs, and obviously, yeah, it's good.
Excellent stuff. So, is that something that's just ongoing at the moment?
Yeah, it opened I think in May.
Right.
So I don't think it's don't think it's got a limited run or anything. It's just an ongoing
Oh wow, okay.
attraction in London. Just in a weird place. It's in the city of London as opposed to West End or somewhere like that.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds like that's something that's worth looking up. Thank you, Shaun. That's colouring me intrigued. Oof, right. Okay. And on that note, I think it's about time we got out of here. Since we're fast approaching bedtimes for people.
Yes, especially as there's a very important rugby match to watch in the morning.
Oh yes, I've forgotten about that. Yes, people need to be up early in order to watch rugby. Yes, okay, yes, right. So, I suppose at this point, we have to thank Shaun for coming back to the show, and thank you for your input, and always great to chat, and thank you for your overview of Saga Age of Magic. Really appreciate it, mate.
It's been a pleasure. It's really good to catch up with you guys again.
Yeah, we shall have to get together in the flesh. If nothing else, I think a time playing a certain UBoot game.
Yes.
Seconds. So yes, we'll look forward to getting together again soon, mate. But no, appreciate you coming back on the show, and well, it's so good to have you back, mate. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Neil, for inviting me. Thank you for having me back after that little brief. Well, let's just pass on from the last episode.
It's a bit like when you fire up Kermode and Mayo and they're on holiday and you get these stand-ins. Your heart sinks.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry, Dave. Still love you, Dave.
Normal service resumed. Excellent. No, good to have you back, mate. Really good. So all that remains to be said is thank you everyone for listening. I hope you found it useful and enjoyed it. And we'll chat to you again in a couple of weeks. We actually have the next show planned already. We are going to be chatting to a long-time friend of the show, Gav Thorpe. He's coming back, and hopefully he'll be able to get a word in edgeways, because we haven't invited Carl back this time. Actually, it was the two of them together that meant that we couldn't get a word in edgeways.
Yeah.
I can't remember that episode. What was it?
We were talking about it was when they were doing open combat.
Yeah.
And because he and Gav have been working on Open Combat, and it was a long show.
It was a great show.
It was fantastic. We had such a good time with them, but it was like, hang on a second, we've been talking for 3 hours.
Yeah,
it was one of those. Cool. So, until next time, take care. Happy gaming. We'll speak to you soon. Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media, and here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.